To you. I trust you are having a good day. Thank you for joining me again for this broadcast on talking about for this cause. For this cause shall a man leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Talking about the priority of marriage. What is that priority that we place on marriage, and recognizing that marriage only works biblically when it's in the right position, when it's in the right priority. And a lot of times when the enemy is trying to attack your marriage, one of the strong things he's trying to do is that he's trying to move it out of position. He's trying to move it out of position. I was looking at an article online, and it was talking about prioritizing your marriage. And one of the things he mentioned in this article talks about recognizing that your family is your main ministry. Your family is your main ministry. It talks about, in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 5, for if a man cannot manage his own household, how can he take care of God's church? And that you are only one dad, one husband, one mom or wife that your spouse and kids will ever have. God puts you in their lives because he knew you were the best person to invest in them. So it's important to make sure you don't shortchange them by focusing on people outside your family more. It can be appealing to focus your efforts on helping people besides your family because they can seem more appreciative and you don't have to live with them 24/7. Come on now. It can also be easier to put on a brave face for the people you see once a week or you meet with on a regular basis. But it takes real character to be a loving servant to the people in your house who may steal your favorite snack or poop on your floor. Hopefully this will not be your kids nor your spouse. So sometimes it's so easy for us to focus on the people outside of our marriage. And, one of the things I've said is that many times we just focus on what our marriage looks like on the outside, not really what is happening behind closed doors. And unfortunately, that's partly because we give our attention, we give our priority to the things that are happening outside of our walls and pay less attention to what's happening inside of our walls. It says if you're winning at work but losing at home, you're losing. That was by Carrie Nieuwhof, Nieuwhof. It says if you are winning at work but losing at home, you are losing. So my question is, are you winning at work and losing at home? Because it may seem very subtle, where it just seems, and you just kind of like things just kind of like go slowly and finally settle into a grind. So that's why it's so important for us to pay attention to what is happening in the home. It's very important for us to pay attention to what is happening in the home. The writer of this article talks about when the son began to have behavioral challenges at home that were caused by neurological issues, that their home life became so unpredictable. He says he would be sweet as can be one minute, then throwing things, kicking, screaming, and uncontrollable the next. We had no idea what to do, how to help him, how to mentally handle the situation. During that time, we both desperately worked to win at our jobs because we felt like it was the one area that we could succeed and actually have some control. While there is nothing wrong with having goals and focusing outside your family, for us it became a problem when we were trying to escape from our family by constantly focusing on work issues at home. Our family life was hard, and ignoring it to focus on work felt like a good fix, but it wasn't. Just once we realized what was happening, we had to backtrack at some bad habits we had created and some unrealistic workloads and responsibilities we had put on ourselves and get back to our family being our top priority. When you make your spouse and kids your highest priority besides your relationship with God, It makes you a better leader and a better example for others to follow. A better leader and a better example for others to follow. Leading in ministry together with your spouse is a fun and rewarding journey. And he put there that I'm so thankful for many couples I've witnessed and served with that have set that strong example for her and her husband to follow, and has helped us both in marriage to build a strong marriage ministry. So we see here, it then mentions that marriage and ministry are huge blessings as well as responsibilities, but thankfully God calls us to both of them. He also gives us the ability to do well and honor him well. But at the end of the day, prioritizing, putting your marriage as a priority is so important, because everything else flows out of that. As we see here, God intends for you to maximize that relationship. And when Eve was created, the first thing God said to Adam was about priority. Not about his own needs. Not about the fact that she was to meet all his needs. No, that wasn't the issue. The issue was, God said to him, it's almost like this is the owner's manual. This is someone I've created. Yes, she's bone of your bones, and you've been able to see that this is not just an animal, but you need to know that this person comes with a handbook. And the first thing in the handbook is that it has to come with the right priority. It has to come with the right priority. So if you don't understand the priority of marriage, you have no business trying to get married, especially if you are not married. And if you are married, it is not too late. Putting your marriage in the right priority can help to save you from a lot of heartache. So I mentioned the last time about how it's important that we pay attention in our relationship. Another article that I saw really talks about how much a marriage costs. My wife and I, we lead the marriage ministry in our local church, and we've done so for probably more than 10 years. And we did a whole series one time on the cost of a good marriage based on an article online talking about where, I think sociologists actually in a place, they did a study in Great Britain talking about what the cost of a happy marriage is and what it's cost to be single. It was an interesting article that we read, and also the cost of divorce and stuff like that. But in this article, I want to talk about from an author here named Deborah Filetta. She mentioned about how, according to recent statistics, that the average couple today spends $26,444 on a wedding. And this is an article that was several years ago. This is back in 2018. And that's a lot of money. All right, $26,444 on a wedding. But listen to this. She says that's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to the real cost of marriage. That statement is profound. You spend $27,000, you spend $30,000, you spend $50,000, you spend $100,000 on a wedding. It is still nothing compared to the cost of marriage. The cost of a wedding and the real cost of marriage are two different things. Two completely different things. And when we're talking about prioritizing marriage, it also involves you recognizing what the costs of a good marriage is, the real cost of marriage. Because like it or not, it says in this article, because like it or not, marriage will cost you more. It actually puts it in caps. It will cost you something great. It will cost you a price much larger than the money you spend on a ring, on a wedding, or a honeymoon. It will cost you yourself. Remember what I was saying in the previous broadcast, talking about how husbands, you need to give yourself as Christ gave, laid down his life for the marriage costs you yourself. Listen, I would rather, if it was a matter of giving thousands and thousands of dollars versus giving myself, it's easier to give money than the real cost of marriage. Because if that wasn't the case, Hollywood would be the haven to where people need to go and study how to have successful marriages. It goes on in this article where it says, I heard a married man on TV regarding whether or not he was going to stay in his own marriage. It says, I shouldn't be with someone if I'm not happy. And this person here says it made my stomach turn. And it talks about what an accurate reflection of the self-centered society we live in. Everyone believing that their main goal in life is their own personal happiness. Their own personal happiness. What a small and shallow way to live. If you're getting married with that as your main goal, to make yourself happy, you will be disappointed in a severe way. It says you'll be disappointed in a severe way, because marriage isn't about your happiness. It's not even about you. Lord have mercy. It's not even about you. Wow. It's about love, which is something we choose to give time and time again. Wow. Wow. It's about love. It's about sacrifice. It's about serving. It's about giving. It's about forgiving and then doing it all over again. Wow. It's about sacrifice, serving, giving, forgiving, and then doing it all over again. You know, I did a whole series one time on what's love got to do with it. Well, this is what it's got to do with it. Love has got everything to do with it. But the big difference between what I'm singing and what Tina Turner was singing is that I'm talking about the God kind of love, not the feeling, not the who needs a heart when a heart can be broken. What's love got to do with it? The God kind of love has everything to do with it. So it says here that no wonder we choose divorce over commitment, because most of the time we're choosing personal happiness over real commitment, over real love. All right? Marriage is not about your happiness. That's something you need to recognize. And that's why some people feel like, oh, I was so happy before while we were dating. Well, now that we're married, I'm not happy anymore. Why? Because you recognize that marriage is not about happiness. Marriage is about commitment. Marriage is about sacrifice. So the Bible there says in Ephesians 5, as we read, that, you know, the wife shall submit to their own husbands, and the husband shall love their wives as Christ loved the church and give himself for it. What part of that is exciting in that sense? What part of that is thrilling? No. And I mentioned this before. Not every part of you is going to be excited about your marriage. Your spirit man is going to be, but not your flesh. Because your flesh is about to die. And as I said in previous broadcasts, marriage works best when you're dead. To self, I might add. Right? So that's what we're talking about. That is what we're talking about. Marriage isn't about your happiness. It's not even about you. Lord have mercy. Somebody says, what is it about? I'm the one that paid the $26,444. It's about love, which is something we choose to give time and time again. It's about sacrifice. Sacrifice. How exciting is that? How many people do you see going to file for divorce because they've given so much of sacrifice? They say to that, I can't stand my spouse because he has sacrificed too much. He just keeps sacrificing. I can't stand it. This sacrifice is just too much. Or it's about serving. How many people do you hear that says, I cannot stand my spouse because my spouse just keeps serving. He keeps looking for how to meet my needs. It's about giving. How many people say, I cannot stand my spouse. I need to get divorced because my spouse just cannot stop giving. Giving affection, giving love, giving understanding. I can't stand it. Oh, it's about forgiving. Oh, I can't stand my spouse because before I even think about stuff, my spouse has forgiven me. No. No wonder we choose divorce over commitment. And then he goes on to say here that they say that marriage teaches you more about selflessness than you ever wanted to know. Marriage teaches you more about selflessness than you ever wanted to know. If you want to learn about selflessness, then you go and get married. And that is when you move from theory, when you see things, things that you saw when you were single, you were reading, Songs of Solomon, and you were reading what, marriages and stuff like that. Things that you don't pay attention to when you're single, about, submitting to your husband, and husband, loving the wife and giving himself. How many people are waking up on their wedding day saying, "Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to die for my spouse. I cannot wait." No, you're thinking of all the benefits of it, which is great, because if there were no benefits, there would be no motivation for all that. But when you recognize that this is what it takes to be able to build that marriage, to be able to build that home that you want to come to be able to help to create an environment where those children are raised and they are productive and they're walking in wholeness, and you and your spouse are happy, and you don't just look happy, but you are truly happy. Come on now. You don't just act like you're married. I've said it before. The enemy wants the single folks to live as married, and the married folks to live as single. That's his strategy. The single folks, oh, why are you single? Just live like you're married. This is the time to leave your father and your mother and your friends and be joined to. No, you don't leave your father and your mother and your friends and be joined to your boyfriend or your girlfriend. No, you're not married. It's only when you are married that you leave. So he wants you to leave and to be so engrossed and make marriage your priority while you are single. But as soon as you say "I do," the enemy begins to work on a strategy to make you say "I don't." Come on now, Lord have mercy. So all that pressure, you're like, "Oh, we need to be together. We need to be together." Once you become together, his strategy is to make you say, "Hey, listen, man, those single days were not as bad, This marriage thing is just a hype. It's just overrated, man, because I'm not happy. I'm not feeling it." No. Nobody feels like going to die. Nobody feels like going to give. Nobody feels like going to forgive. No, it's dying to self. That's why you need God. You need that relationship with God, because the human nature doesn't have it to want to sacrifice, to want to serve, to want to give, to want to forgive. No, the human nature doesn't have that. It's your spirit nature that has that. Well, you don't want to miss the next broadcast. We need to pick up from where we're going to leave off today. But I just pray that God will continue to strengthen your marriage. He will bring healing. He will bring wholeness. He will bring restoration. He will bring direction. And he will bring peace in your home. In Jesus' name. Join me for the next broadcast. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.